I helped my sister get her dream job, then she got me fired. 5 years later, she's begging me for work. 5 years ago, my sister destroyed my career out of jealousy and ambition. Today, she's unemployed, desperate, and asking me for a job at the company I now run. This is the story of how helping family can backfire spectacularly, and how patience and hard work always win in the end. My name is Rachel, and I'm 32 years old. I'm currently the VP of Marketing at a thriving tech startup, but getting here, that's a story written in betrayal, resilience, and the sweetest kind of justice. My sister Melissa is 29, and for most of our lives, I was the responsible older sister who cleaned up her messes, covered for her mistakes, and opened doors she couldn't open herself. The marketing industry is small, reputation is everything. One bad move, one burned bridge, and word travels faster than wildfire. What I learned the hard way is that sometimes the person holding the match is someone you share DNA with. Before we get into how this all unfolded, let me know in the comments, have you ever helped a family member get ahead only to have them stab you in the back? Because if you have, this story is going to feel painfully familiar. And if you're someone who believes that family loyalty should go both ways, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of people who understand that blood doesn't give anyone the right to destroy your life. 5 years ago, I was riding high, senior account manager at Morrison & Associates, one of the most prestigious marketing agencies in the city. I had a stellar reputation, clients who trusted me implicitly, and colleagues who respected my work. I'd built that reputation brick by brick over 5 years of 60-hour weeks, flawless campaigns, and treating every client relationship like it was made of glass. Melissa, on the other hand, was struggling, fresh out of college with a marketing degree she'd barely earned, living in our parents' basement and complaining daily about how unfair the job market was. She'd been job hunting for 8 months with nothing to show for it except rejection emails and an increasingly entitled attitude about why the world owed her success. Our parents, they'd been on my case for months. Rachel, you have to help your sister. You're doing so well. Can't you just put in a good word? Family helps family. The guilt trips were relentless. Mum would call me at work, crying about how Melissa was losing confidence and how I was the only one who could save her career. It was the same pattern that had defined our childhood. I was the responsible one, so I didn't need attention or praise. Melissa was the sensitive one who needed constant validation and support. When I succeeded, it was expected. When Melissa struggled, it was a family emergency requiring my intervention. I should have trusted my instincts. Every fibre of my being screamed that mixing family with business was a disaster waiting to happen. I'd watched Melissa operate her entire life. She was charming, manipulative, and had never met a shortcut she wouldn't take. But she was also my little sister, and the family pressure was suffocating. Then the opportunity came up. Morrison & Associates was hiring for a junior account manager position, entry level, perfect for someone with Melissa's experience level, and my recommendation would virtually guarantee she got the job. When Melissa found out, she didn't just ask for help, she begged, she cried, she promised she'd work harder than anyone, that she'd make me proud, that this was her chance to finally prove herself. Against every instinct I had, I decided to help her. I vouched for her character, her work ethic, her potential. I put my own reputation on the line because she was family, and I wanted to see her succeed. I coached her for hours before her interviews, gave her insider knowledge about company culture, introduced her to every decision maker who mattered. And Melissa? She was brilliant in those interviews. Charming, enthusiastic, asking all the right questions. She got the job with a starting salary of $65,000. The family celebrated like she'd won the lottery. Mom cried with joy. Dad took us out to dinner. Melissa hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for believing in me. I'll never forget this." I actually thought this might be the thing that finally brought us closer together. How naive was that? The warning signs started almost immediately, but I ignored them because I wanted to believe the best about my sister. Melissa would roll into the office at 9:30 when everyone else started at 8:30. She'd leave at 4:45 sharp, while the rest of us regularly worked until 7 or 8. During team meetings, she'd take credit for collaborative work, subtly positioning herself as the driving force behind ideas that came from the group. But the worst part? She started gossiping about everyone, including me. I'd catch fragments of conversations where she'd be talking to senior executives about how some people were resistant to new ideas, how the old guard was holding the company back. She never mentioned names, but her eyes would flick to me when she said it. She was building alliances, positioning herself as the fresh perspective the company needed. Within 6 months, something had fundamentally shifted. The gratitude was gone. In its place was this competitive edge that made my stomach turn. She'd contradict me in meetings, suggest alternative approaches to my strategies, and somehow make it sound like she was being helpful rather than undermining. But the real betrayal started with my biggest client, TechFlow Industries, a $500,000 annual account that I'd built from the ground up over 3 years. The CEO, Marcus Chen, and I had developed the kind of professional relationship that agencies dream about: trust, mutual respect, consistent results. Melissa started positioning herself as the fresh eyes TechFlow needed. She'd schedule meetings with Marcus that I wasn't invited to, claiming they were informal coffee chats to better understand the client's vision. Slowly, Marcus started requesting Melissa specifically for certain projects. When I asked her about it, she'd smile and say, "He just wants to make sure the whole team is aligned." What I didn't realize was that Melissa had been systematically building a case against me. She was documenting every small mistake, every client concern, every moment when a campaign didn't perform exactly as projected. She was creating a paper trail that painted me as incompetent while positioning herself as the solution to problems she was creating. The setup was masterful, I'll give her that. We had a major presentation to TechFlow's board of directors, make or break moment for a campaign that could lead to a $2 million contract expansion. I'd been preparing for weeks. Every slide was perfect, every data point verified, every transition smooth. The morning of the presentation, Melissa sent me what she claimed was the final version of the slide deck, except it wasn't. It was an outdated version from 2 weeks prior, missing crucial data containing information that was no longer relevant and lacking the compelling narrative that would sell the expansion. I walked into that boardroom confident and prepared, only to realize 30 seconds into my presentation that nothing made sense. The slides didn't match my talking points. The data was wrong. I looked completely unprepared and unprofessional in front of 12 executives who controlled millions of dollars in business. And then Melissa stepped in to save the day. She had the correct presentation on her laptop, of course. She smoothly took over, delivered a flawless pitch, and positioned herself as the hero who rescued the meeting from my incompetence. Marcus Chen looked at me like he'd never seen me before, like 3 years of perfect service had been erased in 30 minutes. The final blow came 2 weeks later. I was called into a meeting with senior management. They had a file folder thick with documented complaints about my recent performance issues, client concerns that I'd never heard about, missed deadlines that I knew I'd met, budget overruns that weren't my responsibility. Melissa had been building this case for months, and I'd been completely blind to it. They demoted me on the spot. Melissa was promoted to Senior Account Manager and given my accounts, including TechFlow. As I sat there in shock, trying to process what was happening, she reached across the table and touched my hand. "Rachel, I'm so sorry," she said, and I swear there were tears in her eyes. "I tried to defend you, but the evidence was overwhelming. Maybe this is just a rough patch. You'll bounce back." I was forced to resign 3 weeks later. My professional reputation was in shambles. Industry connections started questioning my competence. Former colleagues avoided my calls, and my family. They were disappointed in my failure and proud of Melissa's rapid success. The next year was hell. I couldn't find a position anywhere near my previous level. Word had spread that Rachel Morrison was unreliable, incompetent. I took a job at a small agency for $30,000 less, and I was grateful just to have it. I was broken. Nights spent replaying every interaction with Melissa, wondering how I'd been so blind. How could my own sister destroy me so systematically? Meanwhile, Melissa was living my dream, promoted to account director within 18 months, industry awards. Our parents couldn't stop bragging about her success while treating my failure like a family embarrassment. I had a choice. I could have exposed her. I had evidence, witnesses. I could have burned her career to the ground, but I chose patience over revenge. I knew the truth would surface eventually. I just had to rebuild myself first. The climb back was brutal. I worked twice as hard as anyone else at my new agency. I took on projects that others wouldn't touch. I stayed late, came in early, and treated every small client like they were worth millions. Slowly, painfully, my reputation started to recover. I went to therapy to process the betrayal and learn how to set boundaries with my family. I developed stronger professional instincts and learned to trust my gut about people's motivations. Most importantly, I learned the difference between authentic relationships and transactional ones. 3 years after Melissa destroyed my career, I was recruited by an innovative tech startup as their marketing director. Within a year, I'd helped them triple their revenue. Within 2 years, I was promoted to VP of Marketing. The company went from 12 employees to over 100, and I built a team culture based on integrity, collaboration, and mutual respect. I started speaking at industry conferences about ethical marketing practices. Former clients began reaching out, wanting to work with me again. I won awards for campaign excellence and began mentoring young professionals who were just starting their careers. While I was building something real, Melissa's house of cards was starting to collapse. Turns out success built on someone else's destruction has a very short shelf life. It turns out that when you build success on someone else's foundation, eventually that foundation crumbles. Melissa's lack of fundamental skills was becoming apparent to everyone at Morrison and Associates. Client retention was becoming an issue because she didn't know how to build the deep, authentic relationships that keep accounts loyal long-term. Her team management was a disaster. People complained about her taking credit for their work, playing favorites, and creating a toxic, competitive environment. She missed deadlines, went over budget, and when things went wrong, she always had someone else to blame. The TechFlow disaster was the beginning of the end, a major campaign failure that cost the client $200,000 and resulted in them terminating their contract with Morrison and Associates. When Marcus Chen found out about Melissa's role in my departure, he felt manipulated and deceived. He started telling other executives in his network about the experience. Other clients began questioning Melissa's competence. Team members started reporting her unprofessional behavior to HR. The pattern of blame shifting and credit stealing became impossible to ignore. What Melissa didn't know was that several former colleagues had witnessed her sabotage of my career. When her own performance came under scrutiny, people started talking. The truth has a way of surfacing when the spotlight gets bright enough. The HR investigation was thorough and devastating. They discovered Melissa's documentation manipulation, her systematic undermining of my work, and the false narrative she'd constructed about my performance. Former colleagues testified about her unethical behaviour. The evidence of her campaign against me was overwhelming. Melissa was terminated for unethical conduct. But the damage went beyond just losing her job. The marketing industry is small, and word spread quickly about why she'd been fired. She was effectively blacklisted. Former clients threatened legal action. Industry publications wrote about the case as an example of workplace toxicity. Meanwhile, my career was reaching new heights. The startup I'd joined was now valued at $50 million, and my leadership was a significant factor in that success. I was being recognized as one of the top marketing executives in the tech industry. The vindication was sweeter than I'd ever imagined. Last month, 5 years after she destroyed my career, Melissa called me. The irony was almost too perfect. She was crying before I even said hello. "Rachel, I need to talk to you. I need help." I listened to her sob story. Unemployed for 8 months, industry reputation ruined, financial difficulties mounting, our parents pressuring her to fix things with me. She'd burned through her savings and was facing the possibility of moving back in with our parents at 29 years old. "I know I made mistakes," she said, and I almost laughed at the understatement. "But we're sisters. Family is supposed to help family, right? I was hoping maybe you could put in a good word for me somewhere. You're doing so well now, and I just need a chance to prove myself." The audacity was breathtaking. After systematically destroying my career, she wanted me to rebuild hers. I took a deep breath and gave her the response she deserved. "Melissa," I said, my voice ice cold and steady, "you didn't make mistakes. You made choices. You chose to destroy me to build yourself up. You chose to manipulate, lie, and sabotage. Now you get to live with those choices." "But Rachel, we're family." Family doesn't systematically destroy family. You burned that bridge the moment you decided my career was worth sacrificing for yours. She tried to interrupt, but I wasn't done. "Here's what's going to happen. Nothing. I'm not your stepping stone anymore, and I'm sure as hell not your safety net. You wanted to play in the big leagues? Welcome to the consequences." The call ended with her screaming at me about family loyalty and how I was being vindictive. But I felt nothing but peace. For the first time in 5 years, the scales were balanced. Here's what I learned from this experience. Trust your instincts about people, even family. Professional reputation takes years to build, but can be destroyed in minutes. Excellence and integrity always win in the long term, but you have to be patient enough to let them work. Some people will use your kindness against you, and blood relation doesn't guarantee loyalty. Enabling bad behavior hurts everyone involved, and setting boundaries with family isn't just important, it's essential. I learned that helping family in professional settings requires extra caution. If someone hasn't earned success through their own merit, giving them opportunities they haven't earned often backfires spectacularly. Today, I'm successful beyond what I ever imagined 5 years ago. I lead a team of talented professionals who trust and respect each other. I work with clients who value integrity and long-term partnerships. I've built something real and sustainable, not a house of cards built on someone else's destruction. Melissa is still struggling to rebuild her career, and our family relationships are forever changed. But I'm at peace with these outcomes because I know I chose the high road, even when it was harder. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so successful and fulfilling that the people who tried to destroy you become irrelevant. Success is the sweetest vindication, and patience is the most powerful weapon you can wield against those who wrong you. The truth always surfaces. Justice always comes. Sometimes it just takes longer than we'd like, but when it arrives, It's more satisfying than any immediate retaliation could ever be. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you helped? How did you handle it? Would you have given Melissa a second chance, or do some betrayals deserve permanent consequences? Let me know in the comments below. If you're dealing with workplace betrayal or family members who want to mix business with personal relationships, share your situation in the comments. Let's help each other navigate these tricky waters. This is part of our ongoing series about long-term karma and professional revenge. Subscribe for more stories about how integrity and hard work ultimately triumph over manipulation and betrayal. Hit that notification bell because, trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Remember, the people who try to destroy you are betting on your weakness. Don't give them that satisfaction. Build something so successful, so unshakable, that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. Your triumph is their punishment. Make it count.